Setting up a pricing calculator for gutter cleaning. Now with gutter cleaning, there's a few different ways of doing the pricing. You could do square footage of the house and then ask for number of sides that have gutters, how many stories. That's how I'm going to do it the first way. You can also do it by asking the linear footage of gutters. And then once you have that, then you add on your additional variables like, do they have guards? When was the last time they were cleaned? So on and so forth. But let's dive into it. Let's build it out the square footage way, and then I'll compare it with the other way of doing it. I personally would recommend the square footage method because a homeowner is going to be more likely to know the square footage of their house than they would be the linear footage of the gutters, right? So I'm going to build this one out manually, and then I might use the AI next, but I'll build it out manually so that you can see how it works. So let's go ahead and say square footage. This will be a number. Now, this formula account that I have right now, it actually has the square footage of the house being asked on another question. So I could connect this if I wanted to by linking the variable to house height for house washing, or for square footage and height, actually. I think I'll actually go ahead and do that. Well, no, since I'm showing you guys how to do this, I won't do that. So this will be a number. We could go a stepper. You could also break this into different drop-down options. If you don't want customers to have to enter an exact measurement or an exact square footage, you could break it into under 1,000, 1,000 to 2,000, 2,000 to 3,000. In this case, I'll just keep it simple and ask for the square footage, and then for the unit, I'll put square foot. You can add some help text here in a video if you want, but I won't do that here. So first question, house square foot. Second question is generally going to be how many sides have gutters. And then this would be, we'll go drop down. And now we'll go number of stories. We'll add that variable. Now, we can start building out the formula here. Let's take the square footage. And this is where you could set a base price per square foot. So let's say, let's take the square footage and we'll put this down to 0. We'll say 0.01. So this would be 1%. Let's go 0.025. We'll just see how this price looks. And we'll say how many sides of gutters. And we'll multiply this by the number of stories. You might want to set a minimum price. You can choose an icon from the library here, or upload your own. Of course, if you are customizing your own auto bidder, it may be in your best interest to upload your own so that it matches your theme. Formula's been saved. Let's check out the call screen. Let's say it's 1,500 square feet, 2 sides, 2 stories, 150. That means it didn't break the minimum price. So let's head back. So 1,000, okay, 20%. Let's make this 11%. Still think that might be a bit too high. Let's go to 9. Let's give this a try. Refresh just to make sure the update went through. $211. Okay. That's a simple way of doing it. Now, the beautiful thing, if you do it this way, is that you can set it up to automatically collect the square footage. So it makes it a bit easier on the customer if they don't know the square footage of the house. So I'll show you how to do that. And then I'll show you the other way of doing it. There's actually infinite ways of doing it. It's only bound by your own creativity. But for house square footage, we could link this to the building area. Go ahead and click save. Let me open up Google Maps and find a random address that I can enter here. Here we've got a house, kind of a unique looking house, so we'll see how this works. Let's head over to the call screen. Let's refresh. And now, because I assigned that new variable, it's going to ask for the, you'll see the first question will ask for the address. We'll enter that. It'll look it up. And now the square footage has been pre-populated. Let's say 2 sides. Let's say 2-story. And now we get a price of $275. Okay. Now, let's head back and let's check that again. The number of stories can also be assigned if you pre-fill. Yeah, I don't think gutters are an option, unfortunately. So you can't automatically collect the length of the gutters, but you can collect automatically from the address the square footage, the number of stories, and material of the roof, and so on. For this case, let's go number of stories. Now, I also mentioned earlier you could link the variables. So if I were doing this as an actual form for a business, I would link this variable to the existing services. So for example, in this account, we have house washing set up. We also have roof cleaning. Both of those questions ask for the area of the house and the height. And so because of that, we would connect those questions so that if a customer happens to select those services, it only makes them enter the address once, and they don't have to keep filling it out, multiple times. Let's go ahead and do it the other way now. So I told you I would do linear feet. So one way you could do this to complicate things is you could start with house stories. So let's start with house height. Again, we'll go drop down. We'll go single story. We'll go 2-story. And then we'll go 3-story. And I'll also add split level in here, because split levels are pretty common. Right. Now I'm not too worried about the variable right now, because this is one of those things that you're going to tweak as you go. And this one we actually want to be somewhere between 1 and 2. So maybe I'll go 1.1 will be fine. Okay, let's go ahead and add that variable. So then what you would do here is you could add a conditional question if they say 2-story, or if they say split level. If you really wanted to get complicated, you could ask for the number of stories, or the number of linear feet of gutter that are single story, and the number that is on the 2-story part. So let's just start off here, and we'll ask for linear feet. We can make this a number. You could also make it a drop down. Personally, my recommendation is you want to make it as easy as possible for the customer, and you want to minimize confusion and uncertainty. Drop downs, multiple choice, options generally are going to be the better option, but depending on how you do things, you may want to get the exact number. I'll put the unit here, linear feet, add the variable. Now this could be a pretty simple formula because you could take the linear feet and then just charge this by your price per linear foot. So maybe you charge 10 cents per linear foot. And then you would just multiply it by the height add-on. Like I said, if let's say you did want to break it up though by number of stories. If let's say they have a split level, you could say and then add another question, how many feet? Okay, now this one would be a conditional display, and it would only show if the house height is split level. And same with this one. House height equals split level. And again, I'm really overcomplicating this, but this is really only if you wanted to. I wouldn't personally do it this way because it just adds complexity. But I know I'm only mentioning this because I've had multiple people want to do it this way. So that's why I'm going through the trouble of setting this up. Okay, so we got both of those variables added. Now this one, we would set this as a conditional as well. And this would be house drop down. And we would want to set this to any. Okay. So now this one would only show, hold on. Yeah, sorry about that brief break, guys. I have to speed this up because my girlfriend's getting angry at me. Let's go ahead and test this out now. So when you add conditional questions, it does add complexity to the formula. So now you can see we've got these additional questions down here. And we've got linear feet of gutters. And now we've got linear feet on the lower level and upper level. So now let's break this up again here. So we've got linear feet, and what we're going to do is put this into its own parenthesis. And then we're going to take, let's just get rid of this existing formula. So we've got linear feet of gutters, and then we're going to add another parenthesis. This is going to be linear, oops, wrong one. How many feet on the lower level plus how many feet on the upper level. And then what we're going to do is, actually we'll end up adding this as well. How many feet on the lower level, and then this would be multiplied by your price per. So let's say on the lower level, you would probably charge 10 cents a square foot, or 10 cents a foot. And then on the upper level, you would probably charge something like let's go 15 cents a square foot, or a linear foot. Okay. Now this is an addition, so following PEMDAS, you actually don't need to add a parenthesis here, but you may want to do that just to make it easier to read. Okay, and then linear feet of gutters. This is where you could set your multiplication and then set your base price per foot. Let's go 12. No, let's go back to 10. And then multiply by the height. And then feet times 10. Okay. And now we have to set a default value if the question is not answered. So okay, we've got a number of stories, linear feet of gutters. If linear feet of gutters is not answered, this default value will be 0. Okay, 0 times this is 0. Perfect. We'll do the same thing here, 0, 0. Okay. I think we're good. Now, this is a much more complex version, but let's go ahead and test it out. Let's call this gutter cleaning. I only get one shot at this because I have to wrap this video up, so let's hope this works on the first try. House height, let's say split level. It's going to ask how many feet on the lower level. Let's say, I don't know, 50. And then let's say 60 on the upper. And it got a price of 14. Very, very wrong. Okay. Let's head over here quick, figure out what went wrong here. Okay, that makes sense. So, again, we'd want to have a minimum price set here. Now, when I actually think about it, you'd want to charge more than 10 cents a linear foot, right? So let's say we'd want to charge 50 cents per linear foot, and then 60 cents per linear foot. Okay, let's give it one more try. Again, let's refresh the page just to make sure that the formula's been updated. Try this one. Let's say it's 2 stories this time. 150. Okay, it didn't meet the minimum threshold, so it gives us the minimum price. Let's try it one more time on the other one, and I'll select split level again. And so we can make sure. The normal way, if they select 1 story, 2 story, or 3 story, that part's much more simple because the variable is more simple. This one is, of course, much more complex if you go split level. So let's make it more this time. Let's say it's 100 on the lower level, 120 on the upper, which most gutters are not going to be that long, but okay, it still didn't meet the minimum price. So that's something you would need to really spend a lot of time updating, make sure it's right. But that's the base of how the formula would work if you wanted to structure it that way. All right. So I hope this video helped. If you have any questions, please reach out. And I thank you for watching the video. Have a great day. Bye-bye.